my besties. Hi. It is the end of January when I am filming this. It is January 30th. I should have done this probably in December, but I have had some medical issues and things that have been going on, so I kind of fell back on booktube for a little while there, and I'm so very sorry. But I'm gonna go through the 25 books that I want to read in 2025. Now, I don't have all of these in physical form. Some of them haven't even come out yet, and some I do have on Kindle, but I don't actually have a physical copy to hold up for you guys. So these are in no particular order. The one that I really wanted to read this year is at the top, so it'll be the last one that we talk about. But without further ado, let's get started. The first book that I really wanted to read this year, I found this recently, and it sounded really good, and it is called The Clinic by Kate Quinn, and there's something on it, and I don't know what it is. It's some kind of sticky nonsense, hard thing. But this is about Meg, who works at an LA casino. Sorry if I'm looking down, I wrote notes, so I actually knew what I was saying. And her sister, Haley, is a famous actress. Her sister ended up going to rehab to try to handle her drug addiction, and word spreads that Haley has died in this rehab center. There are rumors flying around that it was a suicide, and Meg just doesn't believe that, so she thinks that the best way to figure this out is to go investigate herself. So she also struggles with a drug problem. She pops pills as well, and she decides to put herself into the rehab and try to figure out what happened to her sister. And that's basically what this is about, and there's a lot that goes on, but it sounds like it's going to be really good. And yeah, so that's the first one I want to read. This is kind of like a thrillery kind of book, but it looks really cool. It looks spooky. The cover drew me right in. I had no idea what this was about. I just bought it because the cover looked good. So that's what our first book that I want to read this year is The Clinic by Kate Quinn. Now, the next one I want to read, I know a lot of people have probably read it. I got it in Book of the Month, I think last month. I finally was able to put it in my box. I got The Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. Now, I have heard such great things about this book, and I've wanted to read it since I started hearing stuff about it, and it's so colorful and happy looking. But this book follows Anna and Liam, who got married when they were in UCLA. She married him to access subsidized family housing and thought that they got divorced at graduation. But that apparently was not the case. Now, Liam, she is a starving artist, he is a professor at Stanford, and he wants nothing to do with the major conglomerate that his family owns. He does, though, want something to do with his big inheritance that he's owed. Now, there is a clause in his grandfather's wishes that he needs to be happily married for 5 years in order to get his inheritance. So he has been pretending this whole time, obviously, that he is married to Anna and that they are very happy, and his family starts to get a bit suspicious and want to meet her. So he has to go to her and try to bring this, like, artistic, fun person around his very, like, uptight family. And she agrees to pretend, and then it ends up him having to choose between the price tag or a potential true love that started out as a lie. So that's what this one is about. It sounds really, really good. It sounds like it's going to be a fun read. I think their personalities are going to be interesting together. Like, I don't obviously know what their personalities are at this point, but just from, like, the blurb of her being a struggling, starving artist, and him being a Stanford professor, it just kind of seems like that's going to be the case. Sorry, because my nose is itchy. The next book that I want to read this year, again, these are in no particular order, but I want to read Dragonfall by L.R. Lamb. Now, I didn't know anything about this book at all when I bought it. And I only know what I know about it now because I wrote notes on it today. But this is a romance between a thief, Arcady, and whose name is Arcady, and the last male dragon in human form named Everin, who are drawn together by an ancient artifact. They soon face the power that could break the world. The closer the two become, the greater the risk both their worlds will shatter. So basically, from what this says, Everin basically needs to convince this thief to bond to them completely, like mind, body, soul, all of it, and then kill them so that he can regain his true power and like help his world or whatever. So, but obviously the feelings get in the way. So I think this is going to be a really good one too. I did just finish rereading the Empyrean series and Onyx Storm, which that is the first book on this list. That's the last book we're going to talk about. I've already read it when I filmed this, but I was really struggling to make a list of the books that I wanted to read. But Onyx Storm and those books left me in a bit of a slumpy place. And I really, really love books that have dragons and fantasy and stuff like that. So I thought that this would be a really good book. I really love the cover of this one as well. It's just, it kind of draws you in, like the colors and the gold and the black and the red. It's really cool, and I really am looking forward to reading another book with dragons, because really the first book that I've ever read with dragons was the Empyrean series, so I'm excited to get more of that kind of thing into my repertoire of books that I've read. So that is the third book that I wanted to read in 2025. Now, the next book is a book that I do not have a physical copy of, so I will put a picture here somewhere. It is Metal Slinger by Rachel Schneider. It is about a girl named Bryn who is returning home to Alaha after her people were banished to live a life across the sea. There is talk of a growing rebellion, so her and her friends make a promise to stick together, but Bryn's loyalty will be tested as she learns of a world with magic and treachery. The dark knowing eyes of a stranger make her question everything, including her heart. So I don't know a ton about this, like that's little bits of the blurb from the back, but I don't really know much about this. I saw this in another booktuber's 25 to read in 25, and it sounded so good when she was describing it, which if you guys don't follow Larry Reads, please go follow her. She is literally amazing and one of my top 3 favorite booktubers. So she's my top favorite booktuber. So if you like booktube content, please go check her out. She's absolutely fantastic. But she was talking about this, and it sounded like a really, really good, fun book and a good premise, and I thought that it would be interesting, so I want to read that as well. The next book that I wanted to get to this year, I also don't have in my hands. It's supposed to be released sometime this year, and it's actually a fan fiction, which I've never really read any fan fiction, but Larry, again, mentioned this one, and it is a fan fiction of Hermione and Draco from Harry Potter, and I love Hermione, and I love Draco, so some screwed up part of me loves Draco. So I really thought that was interesting, and I'd never heard anything about it, but it's called Manacled, and it's by Andy Wolf, and I am very excited to read that when it comes out. Like I said, I didn't even know it existed until I saw Larry's video, so I'm very excited that I heard about that from her, because I do love the two of them, and I would love to like read something that another fan like myself has actually written. The next thing that I want to do this year is another one that I don't have a physical copy of that I'm hoping I will at some point, is Zodiac Academy. The Awakening, the first book, but will probably end up being the whole series because apparently it sucks you in and doesn't release you from its grasps ever. So I'm very excited to potentially to get to that and hopefully find another series that I really love. But that is by Caroline Peckham and Suzanne Valenti. It is about Tori and Darcy, who are two twins that find out that they are fae. They have been living in the land of the humans, and they are heirs to the throne in Celeria. And all Tori needs to do to claim her throne, or to claim her birthright, is by proving that she is the most powerful supernatural in the world. And she and her sister are put into a school where you fight to survive, but a dragon shifter has his eyes on her throne, and he is determined, along with his friends, to make her life very, very difficult. So I don't fully know how I feel about bully romances, and I've heard that the first book is very much a bully romance. But I know a lot of people say that it gets so much better after the first book, so I am excited to read it. And it's got like all different kinds of supernatural stuff in it. It's got fae and vampires and sirens and werewolves and shifters and all these different things, and I really love supernatural stuff, so I'm very excited to get into this one as well. I will definitely have to set aside time to read that, because I get the feeling if it's anything like other books that I'm into and other series that I'm into, I will be sucked in and will be binging the entire series, which is dangerous. And there's also 2 other series that are off of that series as well, so it's going to be a lot of books to read at some point. But that is another one on this list that I wanted to get to this year. And then the next one we have is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I also don't have this one, so cue picture. I don't have this in physical copy yet, but this is about Poppy, who is a maiden, and she would rather be with the guards fighting back the evil that took her family, but she is waiting for her ascension and the gods' approval. Hawk is a guard bound to ensure her ascension. He enters her life, and destiny and duty become tangled with desire and need when he tempts her with the forbidden. So she is supposed to, like, not love, not touch, not anything, anybody. And he comes into her life and kind of gets in the way of that and tempts her with things that she can't have. Because being a maiden and going for ascension was never her choice. It was something she was kind of forced into. So she is having a difficult time and not wanting to be there. She would rather be fighting with the guards, which I think is really interesting. I've heard really great things about From Blood and Ash, so I'm excited to get to that one as well this month. Or not this month. Oh my god, I'm not reading all 25 of these in a month. But this year. The next one is another book that I've heard amazing things about. I've wanted to read it for months now, but like really wanted to read it. So it is The Book of Azrael by Amber Nicole. Picture, because I also don't have a copy of this. Now, The Book of Azrael is about a girl named Diana who gave up her life in the deserts of Eoria to save her sister. And she called out for help. She was praying for help, and she didn't expect a monster to answer her, but that's exactly what she got. And now she does whatever he asks, even if it means stealing a relic from the creatures that hunt her. Enemies older than time must put aside their differences to save both their world and every realm in between. So it's about Diana and, I guess, her enemy kind of teaming up together to save both of their worlds and everything that is in between them. And I'm assuming going to be an enemies to lovers, but it sounds really good. I know it's spicy and it's a little bit dark, so I'm excited to read that. And I know it's the first book in a series as well, so that'll be exciting. But that is the next book that I wanted to read this year, which is book number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the 8th book on our list. Now, book number 9 that I want to read this month, I also don't have, but it is Grave Matter by Karina Hale? Oh my god, hang on, let me look it up so that I don't mess that up, because I can't read my writing. Let me do a quick look-sees. Grave Matter. Yeah, by Karina Hale. This is a horror romance means sci-fi, but it's a dark psychological thriller, so it's a little bit of everything, and it sounds like it's going to be really good. It is about a woman named Sydney who joins a prestigious foundation's group of researchers that consists of 12 other grad students in a lodge on Vancouver Island where they are doing Alzheimer's research. It's very promising Alzheimer's research. While they're there, one of the students gets killed, and Sydney seems to be the only one that cares about this. But she starts to learn, being in this place, that everyone around her has terrible secrets to hide, including the resident psychologist that she is very, very quickly falling for. So that sounds really good. It's like kind of a mystery, romance, thriller. It sounds really good. I didn't even know about that either until Larry mentioned it. But she was talking about it, and I started looking into it a little bit more and listening to what she had to say about her like little roundup of it, and it just sounded really good and up my alley. I'm trying to get more into like horror reads, so I'm excited that it's got a little bit of horror as well as sci-fi. I don't read a ton of sci-fi, so I'm trying to get into like horror sci-fi kind of deals, which brings us to our 10th book on this list, which is Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. I also don't have this in a hard copy, but this is about Claire Kovalek, who brings her crew. They are out in space and they don't want to go back to Earth, so they hear a distress call. They get some news of a distress call, and she brings her crew aboard a decades-lost luxury cruise liner, or luxury cruise liner, luxury cruiser, and it ends up being that things are not what they seem. Like, they were expecting to find bodies that were starved, or, you know, they ran out, like, the thing broke down and they ran out of provisions and they all died in the ship. But that is not what they find. Instead, Claire must fight to hold her sanity and find out what happened to the Aurora before she and her crew face the same fate. It's a sci-fi horror novel where the Titanic meets Event Horizon. So it's basically about them in this ship, and they start seeing bloody writing on the walls, and they hear noises and different things that are happening. So that sounds really good. It's another sci-fi horror kind of deal. So I'm excited to get into those. I've heard Dead Silence is amazing. Another one of my favorites, Ellen Catherine. I will have both. I will have all the booktubers I mentioned linked down below. But she read this recently and she really loved it. So I am very excited to read that. It sounds like it's going to be really good, and it's a genre that I want to get into. So I'm very excited for that. The 11th book that we have on this list is going to be Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. I have heard great things about this. This is basically Hunger Games meets vampires. Drea is a human who was adopted by the Nightborn Vampire King. The only way to become more than prey is by entering a legendary tournament called Kajari that is hosted by the goddess of death herself. All three vampire houses compete. Their most, like, volatile fighters compete. And Rain, an enemy to her father's crown, is her greatest competition, but she finds herself inexplicably drawn to him. So it's going to be like an enemies to lovers deal. It's got trials and tribulation type stuff, which I loved. Like, that's why I loved Enchantra, or not Enchantra, Phantasma and Hunger Games and stuff like that. So I'm very excited to get into this as well. I've had this on my list for a while, and I'm very excited to get to it. So obviously I had to make this list. Now the next one is another one that I do not have the hard copy of because it is not out yet. But the next one that I want to read is Scythe and Sparrow by Brynn Weaver. It is the third book in the Ruinous Love series, and this one follows Fionn and Rose. Fionn flees from Boston to a small town in Nebraska to get away from to escape heartbreak and get away from his, what would have been fiance, and to start a new life. And he is like, I'm going to focus on work and not romance or anything like that, until a motorcycle performer comes in with the circus and ends up having to stay at his house to heal after she tries to kill somebody, and it goes a little bit awry and she hurts herself. So while she is healing, she is staying at his house, and the story goes from there. But that is another book that I really want to read. I absolutely loved the first two books. I loved Butcher and Blackbird and Leather and Lark. There it is. Got there. So I'm very excited for this last installment. I love that it is a series that follows three brothers. And there's romance and serial killers, and it's great, and I absolutely adored them. So I'm very excited to get to that. Just make sure that if you want to pick that up as well, to check trigger warnings. Check trigger warnings on all of these, because I'm sure a bunch of them have them. So make sure you're taking care of yourself and checking into those. The next book that I want to read, we also don't have in physical copy because it is also not out yet. But that is Enchantra by Kaylee Smith, the next book after Phantasma. I ate Phantasma up. I absolutely adored Phantasma. I love Blackwell so much. But this one is about Genevieve, the sister of Ophelia from the first book. Genevieve Grimm is invited to a palace in Italy. Rowan Silver slams the door in her face when she arrives, and she decides that she is not going to take that sitting down. So she sneaks in and sees that he and his family are caught in a deadly game, and there can only be one winner. She must try to end the game and fight her attraction to Rowan. So that sounds really good. It's going to be another like trials kind of aspect to it, which I really love. But I'm looking forward to that one a lot as well. The next book that I want to get to, which I do have this in a physical copy because I borrowed it from my best friend, but it is Twisted Love. I have heard very, very mixed reviews on this. There are some people who just, Anna Huang is not really somebody that they enjoy reading anymore, or there's very mixed things. But I'm very excited to get to this. It's a 4-book series, and they're all kind of standalones, I think, interconnected standalones. But I'm very excited to get to these. This is about Alex Volkov, who is a dangerous man with a past that he can't escape. And he is forced to look after his best friend's younger sister when his best friend goes abroad for a year to work as a doctor for, like, studying purposes. And Ava, the younger sister, has a very broken past that she doesn't remember but still gets nightmares from. And she, even though she's got a broken past, she still sees the beauty in everything. And even though they were never supposed to fall in love and they both know they should stay away from each other, unleashed secrets come out that could destroy them both. So this sounds like it's going to be amazing, and I can't wait to share it with you. I'm going to be doing a vlog or let's chat kind of video about this whole series, so keep your eyes out for that at some point soon. But this is the next book on the list that I wanted to get to. Now the next one is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I have been looking forward to this one as well. This is another book that's got trials and stuff in it. This follows Avery Grams, who inherits Tobias Hawthorne's fortune, but she doesn't even know who he is. In order to get the inheritance, she must move into Hawthorne House, which is currently still occupied by the dispossessed family of Tobias, and Avery must play the game along with everyone else just so that she can survive. Like, all the people who live in this house don't believe that they think that she's a con woman and that the stuff shouldn't be left to her, but she is basically left everything in this man's fortune. So she has to play this game that he puts, like, that he has in the works in order to get the inheritance that he leaves for her. And this is a multiple book series as well. I think it's a trilogy, but I can't wait to read this as well. I've heard really good things about this. I love trials, and it's fantasy, and it just sounds like it's going to be really good. So I'm very excited to read this one as well. Next book is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. Also have heard amazing things about this. I know that it doesn't really have, like, spice to it or anything like that, but this is about Iris, who is writing letters to who she thinks is her brother, but it's a very interesting way on which this happens, because she writes these letters and she sticks them underneath the door of her wardrobe and they vanish. but she thinks they're going to her brother when in reality they are going to Roman Kit, her rival at the paper that she works at. And they form a connection that follows Iris to the front lines of battle for her brother, the fate of mankind, and for love. So they're enemies, but they've been writing letters to each other without knowing it, and they end up forming this really good bond. So this is also supposed to be really amazing. I've heard wonderful things about this, and it's a duet, and I do have both of them, so that'll be great to be able to get a duet finished off. But I'm very excited for this one as well. Now, the next book that we have on our list is Beach Read by Emily Henry. I have not read an Emily Henry book yet, so I'm very excited to get to one. I know that this is a lot of people's favorites, along with Funny Story, I believe, is the other one. But in this book we follow Augustus Everett, a literary fiction author, and January Andrews, who's a romance author, as they are neighbors in beach houses for 3 months while they try to write their books. They both are in a reading slump kind of deal, and they're both trying to write their books, and when they're still struggling, they decide, hey, let's switch genres. So she's gonna write the literary fiction and he's gonna write the romance, and they end up going on like these dates and activities and stuff to get each other into the right mindset of the genre they're now going to be writing. So I think that's a really cool premise, and I think it's going to be really, really cute. So I'm very excited to get to this one as well. I'm sorry, I'm like zipping through these. I'm trying to make sure that my battery doesn't die. But this is the next book that I want to read in 2025. The next book on my list is another book that I have heard fantastic things about. I know that it has a very interesting magic system in it, so I'm very excited to get to this one as well, and that is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I love the cover of this one as well. There's quite a few covers in this that I really like, but I really like this one, and this is about Elspeth Spindle, who needs a monster, but very well might be the monster herself. She joins a quest to cure the kingdom of dark magic infecting it, and she must team up with the king's nephew to find 12 Providence cards, which are the key to the cure. So I've heard that it's very good. I don't know a ton about it aside from that little bit that I wrote down. I've been trying to kind of avoid a lot of stuff about these books because I knew that I wanted to read them. Like, I know little, like, non-spoilery bits, but this is another one that I was really excited to read, so this is also going to be on our list. Now, the next one is a biggin, and I absolutely adore this author so much. One of her series really got me back into reading. So we are going to go read Crescent City, The House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. I absolutely adored ACOTAR and Throne of Glass. I loved both of them so, so much. But in this book, we follow Bryce Quinlan after her friends are murdered by a demon and hunt Athalar, a fallen angel. He is offered a deal for his freedom if he helps Bryce find the murderer, find the person who killed her friends. And they find a blazing passion in each other that can set them both free if only they'd let it. So again, another enemies to lovers kind of deal. I know that this one is more like modern than ACOTAR and Throne of Glass, but I've heard amazing things about this as well. A lot of people love these books, so I'm very excited to get to this as well, even though she chunky. But I'm still trying to get this sticker off, but I absolutely adore this cover. I saw these in the store and I absolutely had to get them. So I got this one and the second one in these artistic covers. The third one I unfortunately have in hardcover, but once the artistic cover comes out for that as well, I am going to buy it because they need to match and they are just stunning. Like, these are stunning. I absolutely love them. But that is the next book on our list for 2025. The next book is another one that I do not have because it's not out yet, but that is Apprentice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Marr. I definitely say her name wrong every time. But that is another book I want to read. I absolutely adored Assistant to the Villain. It was so cute and fun, and it was a very not super high stakes fantasy, which I really enjoyed, and I absolutely adore Kingsley, the little frog with the signs. He's precious. But this is basically Evie needing to protect the villain's lair, make sure all of his nefarious plans stay intact, and potentially save her whole kingdom. And I'm not going to say too much. I don't know too much about what's coming, but the last book ended in a cliffhanger, so I don't want to say anything if people haven't read it. The next book on our list is, in fact, Bride by Allie Hazelwood. Now, I've heard wonderful things about this as well. I know that this is Allie Hazelwood's first kind of dip into fantasy, and this is about Misery Lark, who is a vampire that has been hiding among the humans until she is called to uphold a peacekeeping alliance with the werewolves. Misery Lark and Lo Moreland agree to a marriage of convenience, but Misery has her own reasons to agree. So it's basically a marriage of convenience. It's forced proximity, I think, and it's enemies to lovers, and I think it's going to be really good. A lot of people say they really like it, so I'm very excited to get into this because it's romance, but fantasy, and I love that. So that's the next book on our list. And the next one on the list is Bloodguard by Cece Robson. Now, I again don't know too much about this, but I got this from Book of the Month, and just look how gorgeous these sprayed edges are. It is a very, very beautiful copy. I absolutely adore this. In this, we follow Lith of Grey as he joins the gladiator arena to try to earn money to save his dying sister. He meets Maeve, an elven royal, who offers him the chance to win the title of Bloodguard and win his freedom. So he has been a part of this gladiator arena for a very long time. They steal your hope and your dreams and everything, and you just basically belong to them. And he has been trying to escape for a very long time, and now he gets this offer from Maeve that can get him the title of Bloodguard and win him his freedom that he's been searching for. So I think that that's going to be really good. This is a beautiful cover. It's just stunning. So I'm very excited to read this one as well. The next book on our list I also don't have, but I'll put it right here, is Fearless by Lauren Roberts. This has also not come out yet, but it's supposed to be released this year. I ate up Powerless and Reckless, and I'm very excited to see what happens after the cliffhanger that Reckless ended in. I don't know anything about this aside from things that I can't say because it will give away the ending of Reckless. So I don't have much to say about this one. I am very excited to read it though. It is more of a young adult kind of fantasy, romantasy deal, and I am very excited to read it. The next book on our list is Heartless Hunter. I do not have this in physical form, but I did get it in my February Book of the Month box, so I will have that. And I believe I also may have gotten, if it was on that list, I'm not sure if it was. Let me check, because I don't think I did get it. And then Rebel Witch, the second book in the duology, is also going to be coming out, or is out, but it is also going to be in my February box. So I will have both of them to read as well. We follow Rune, a witch who goes by the Crimson Moth to save witches from execution. She pretends during the day to be a wealthy socialite, and then at night she's the Crimson Moth. She had to essentially give up her grandmother as a witch when she was younger, in order to avoid like treason, and her grandmother agreed and basically took the fall for them. And then she ended up turning into a witch, and her best friend Alex has been trying to help keep her secret and keep her alive for this whole time. And she now is working in the dark to save other witches, which I think is really, really great. I've heard wonderful things about this. I know a lot of people love this book and are very excited for the duet to finish. So I'm very excited to read that as well. And the last book on our 25 of 25 list is Onyx Storm by the beautiful, lovely, wonderful, amazing Rebecca Yarros. I'm not going to lie to you, at the time that I am filming this, I have finished this book. I need answers. I need so many things. I don't know how I'm supposed to wait for the next book. Rebecca has filled and broken my heart all at the same time. I'm not going to tell you much about this because either you've already read it or I'm not going to spoil it for you. But this is basically following Xaden and Violet and all of their friends in the aftermath of the end of book 2 of Iron Flame. A lot happens in this. There is... I really can't say anything without giving anything away. So, this is my top book to read of 2025, and I have in fact done it. So, if you are looking for more about Onyx Storm, please feel free to look it up on your own. I don't want to say anything here that's going to give it away for people who have not read it yet, or who haven't read the series yet. But if you have not picked up this series, please, for the love of everything that is holy, read this series. I absolutely adore this series. This, I think, has officially taken my #1 spot. It was ACOTAR because ACOTAR got me back into reading. ACOTAR is still a very, very close second. But this series, I adore the Empyrean series. So please, 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 if you love dragons and you love magic and fantasy and colleges and stuff, please read this series. It is absolutely fantastic. But that being said, those are the 25 books of 2025 that I am wanting to get to this year. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave me some comments below telling me what books you're excited for this year. I love to get my recs for new books to look into, so if you have any that you're super excited for this year, or if you have any of these ones on your list as well, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. I hope you guys stay happy, healthy, and safe. Thank you for giving me any time that you do, because it is not something you can get back, and I really do appreciate it. If you like this video, hit the like and subscribe button. I would really appreciate it, and I will see you guys whenever I see you next.